If you're just a first-time listener to my show, let me briefly introduce myself and what the show's all about. The show's about you, is what it is, actually. I'm almost 69 years of age. I'm a baby boomer, like many of my listeners out there. I'm a former Mr. Universe twice world champion, Mr. America from the 1980s, and I'm a young old guy. And I'm here every week to bring for you, hopefully, information that you don't get on a day-to-day basis that has to do with your health and taking care of yourself and, how you can enjoy the good life as you get older. And unfortunately, many of us aren't enjoying the good life as we get older. It's a management of our sickness or things that we have wrong with us. And so I bring you information, and hopefully you can make some smart choices. I try to help you deal with the misinformation that we're given on a day-to-day basis when it comes to exercise and food. And here's a good one for you. This is from USA Today. Americans don't choose to be fat. Many live within a system they don't control. It says Nathaniel Lewis Brown always loved his food, especially spaghetti and potatoes. On a typical night, he would eat 3 dinner plates full. On holidays, Brown, 64, he's a baby boomer, served himself on a platter. He knew he should cut back, but he didn't have anyone who cared enough to tell him to eat less. Plus, food helped him curb life stresses and his constant worry. Now, take those words into consideration there. Stresses, life stresses, constant worries, okay? Then came the heart attack. Brown's life is far from perfect, but he wasn't ready for it to end. I want to live up to 100 to 120. I know that ain't going to happen, but that sounds good to me, said Brown, a former long-haul truck driver, factory worker, and prison guard, now living in Indianapolis. The social, racial, and economic inequities that people like Brown face help explain why the nation's obesity epidemic remains so challenging. It's nearly impossible to change a lifetime of eating and exercise habits and stick with them, studies show. Many people like Brown live in areas where it's tough to access healthy foods or exercise safely and affordably. The economics of eating in America make high-calorie foods an easy go-to. People with obesity are victims of the system they don't control, says Daniel Clark, a medical sociologist at Indiana University, a research organization in Indianapolis. Instead of blaming people for being overweight, we should be blaming the system and the industry that has profited from all those added pounds and poor health. Listen to this. Nutrition researcher Marion Nessel likes to ask a simple question. Who would gain if people weighed less and ate more healthily? In the U.S., she thinks only a few. You have an enormous forces in society that benefit from people being overweight. The diet industry benefits, the healthcare industry benefits, the drug industry benefits, and the food industry benefits. You don't benefit. They do. And this supports what I've been saying over so many years here on KFY. In fact, somebody asked me today how long I've been on this station for. I've been on this station most of the time since 1991, approximately. That's 33 years. And I've been preaching this message that long. We have a mess in this country. And it's only going to get worse. And the ones that are going to profit from it is the healthcare industry, Big Pharma, and the food industry. You won't. So I get this article that was sent to me by one of my clients who's lost about 40 pounds, a gal. She's doing great. 1 in 8 adults in the U.S. has taken Ozempic or another GLP-1 drug, the survey finds. This is CNN. 1 in 8. This feeds what I just said here about Big Pharma. They love it. They love it to keep people heavy, to get them on drugs, to treat this problem. And they feed it right in there with the food industry as well. They're in the bed together. You make them fat, we'll treat the fatness with our drug. Invest in our stock, you make a lot of money. Number here is 602-260-5394. Then I pull up this article just out last month. It's a long read, but it's worth you paying some attention to it, what I've got to say here. It's about the American Diabetes Association, and it's from the newspaper The Guardian. Title, Low-Carb Diets Work. Why does the American Diabetes Association push insulin instead? This is by Neil Barsky. The American Diabetes Association takes millions from companies to stand to profit from our reliance on drugs. Is that affecting their guidance? For a glimpse into how big business influences a $4 trillion U.S. healthcare system, $4 trillion. Look no further than the world's most powerful diabetes advocacy and research nonprofit. Got that, nonprofit? The American Diabetes Association. Diabetes afflicts 38 million Americans. 38 million. With another 90 million considered pre-diabetic. So between those two numbers, about 140 million people. Every year, the disease claims the lives of 100,000 Americans and disproportionately affects people of color. It is also ruinously expensive, as doctor visits, hospital stays, insulin, blood sugar tests, leg amputations, continuous glucose monitors, and numerous glucose-lowering drugs add up to $400 billion a year. To put it bluntly, we are losing the war on diabetes. And unlike many diseases, such as cancers, Alzheimer's, kidney disease, or Crohn's, type 2 diabetes is reversible. This bears repeating in elaboration. Numerous nutritional studies have shown that diabetes can be reversed through a strict diet low in carbohydrates, the macronutrient that people with diabetes cannot metabolize without the help of drugs. The American Diabetes Association concedes this, but you wouldn't necessarily know it from the drug therapies or the foods and recipes that organization recommends to people suffering from the condition. Now listen to this part. In 2020, the then American Diabetes Association president, Tracy D. Brown, rocked the diabetes world when she disclosed that she had type 2 diabetes and had gotten off insulin and other medications by adhering to a low carbohydrate diet. Here's what to do, and it's pretty simple, that she said in an interview that might have made American Diabetes Association's pharmaceutical benefactors crazy. Elevated blood sugars happen when you have sugars in your body, and you don't have insulin to manage the sugar in your body. Carbohydrates turn into sugar. So I just try to get people to be aware of how many carbohydrates you're actually putting in your body. The very next day, the low-carb focused website, Diet Doctor, published a breaking news story about the highly encouraging news that the influential CEO of the American Diabetes Association is on record as a low-carb eater. The following year, Brown resigned her position at the ADA and joined a senior role at Walgreens. It goes on and on. She actually reversed her diabetes by going on a low-carb diet. I'll share the rest of this article after the break. I want to stop at that point for you to get the message that this is reversible. It is a disease that can be reversed. So when you're told that, you're going to have this the rest of your life, get used to it, take these drugs and get sicker and sicker, you have another thing coming. We're really hitting hard on this diabetes epidemic because it's affecting so many people in this country, and all these different diseases are tied to it. In fact, many of your experts say that diabetes is the number 3 killer in this country, not number 7. Because when they put on the death certificate what they die from, mostly people have diabetes and they'll put some other cause. It says in here, the article I'm sharing with you that in 2019, the American Diabetes Association greatly and grudgingly acknowledged that low-carb diet's effectiveness. In other words, they said it did work. In a journal article on dietary guidelines in a medical journal, Diabetes Care, the American Diabetes Association gave the low-carb diet its due. Here's what they said. Low-carb diet eating patterns, especially very low-carb diet eating patterns, have been shown to reduce A1C, the metric that measures one's blood sugar levels over a period of time, and the need for anti-hyperglycemic medications. These eating patterns are among the most studied eating patterns for people with type 2 diabetes. It says here, unfortunately, the American Diabetes Association still sees diabetes as a progressive disease that gets worse over time. It still sanctions insulin therapy for people with type 2 diabetes, a remedy many doctors say will harm patients in the long run. Type 2 diabetes is a condition of too high blood sugar and too high of insulin. Did you hear that? Too high of insulin, where the body is resisting the effects of insulin and signaling that it has stored enough. What did it store enough of? Sugar. Says Marella Glant, a Harvard-trained endocrinologist who prescribed low-carb, you hear that? Harvard-trained, who prescribes a low-carbohydrate diet to her patients in the Bronx. Giving insulin to someone with diabetes is like giving more alcohol to an alcoholic when they are shaking. It will treat the symptom. The high sugar will come down, but in the end, we make the disease worse and increase the chance of long-term complications. She goes on to say here, as I previously wrote about in The Guardian, I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. This is the person writing the article. 3 years ago and prescribed insulin shots and metformin, but was able to get off all medications by adhering to a strict low-carbohydrate diet. The experience left me baffled. Again, this is the author of the article that's in The Guardian. I couldn't understand why only a tiny minority of clinicians seem to recommend diet-based approach to diabetes treatment, rather than the insulin-heavy regimen I was initially prescribed, or why the American Diabetes Association huge educational campaigns soft-pedaled the diet and preferred to let millions of people with type 2 diabetes take numerous medications or shoot themselves up with insulin instead. This is not a minor matter. If people with diabetes were told merely and ambiguously that if they stopped eating carbohydrate-rich foods, they could probably arrest or reverse the diabetes, thousands of lives and billions of dollars would be saved. The reality is, if you want to treat type 2 diabetes effectively, the first thing you have to do is throw out the American Diabetes Association guidelines. The ADA's messaging seems almost calculated to add to the confusion, as if after 80 years of existence and billions of dollars spent on medical research, the American Diabetes Association is merely a helpless observer in the low-carb diet debates. From low-carb from carb-free to low-carb to whole and empty carbs, it's hard to know what it all means. The American Diabetes website says, carbohydrates or carbs get a lot of attention these days, and it's no secret that carbs can affect your blood sugar. You might be wondering if you should eat them at all. You're not alone. The ADA's Chief Scientific and Medical Officer, Dr. Robert Gabby, says that the ADA's dietary guidelines were the result of rigorous scientific process undertaken annually by a team of medical experts who scrutinize the latest research about how best to treat type 2 diabetes. There's no size that fits everybody, he says here. There's more than one way for people to successfully manage diabetes. You hear the term manage? That doesn't mean cure. Manage. That means drugs. He added that corporate funders have no say in this. The ADA has a major say in how diabetes is managed globally, Its medical practice committees issue standards of care medical guidelines to American physicians and doctors around the world. The organization boasts a $100 million annual budget, 600,000 volunteers, and is a 20,000 member from the healthcare community. It holds bike-a-thons, walk-a-thons, run-a-thons, dietary guidelines, and recipes that are downloaded by millions of people every year. It publishes academic journals and holds medical conferences in which the latest research is presented. It funds medical research. It hosts summer camps for kids with diabetes. Their professional practice committees write all the guidelines that we follow. The ADA is far from our only obstacle to widespread adoption of low-carb diet. Absence of national health education initiative that links carbohydrates to diabetes epidemic. Low-carb clinicians will be a voice in the wilderness. It can be challenging for many people with diabetes to forego the bread, the sweets, the pasta, and the starches that form the basis of their diets. And given the dearth of healthy eating options on the shelves of many American supermarkets, some clinicians I spoke with, each of whom dedicated their patients' well-being, said it was more effective to simply prescribe the patient's drugs. Diabetes was hijacked as a business opportunity almost from the moment of insulin. The hormone that people with type 1 diabetes cannot produce was first discovered by a team of researchers at the University of Toronto in 1923. The University of Toronto Board of Governors sold the patent to Eli Lilly and Company for $1 because Lilly was better able to manufacture and distribute the synthetic hormone. Insulin does not belong to me. The insulin medication co-founders, Sir Frederick G. Banting, said it belongs to the world. Eventually, now here we go. Here's the money part. Eventually, two international drug companies, now known as Novo Nordisk and Novartis, Novo Nordisk, I believe, is the maker of Ozempic, wrangle patents as well. The reason the insulin story is so outrageous is that the inventors of insulin wanted insulin to belong to everyone. Somehow, these three drug companies got together to create a global monopoly. It's a remarkable thing when you consider the birth of insulin. The ADA corporate contributors are not precisely traceable. Based on financial filings, this is what we know. Here's the money part. Between 2017 and 2024, more than 50 pharmaceutical companies and device manufacturers contributed over $134 million to the organization, the American Diabetes Association, or roughly 20% of total funding. Food industry contributors were not broken down. It isn't difficult to see how contributions to the ADA could get bang for their buck. The ADA's social media feed is a virtual supermarket of products purveyed by its funders. Here we go. Need a diabetes test? Go to CVS. $10 million, 3-year partnership in 2021 with the ADA. Want to learn more about kidney care? Do it with DaVita. $1.5 million in 2024. Want to donate to the American Diabetes Association? Just head over to your local GNC and put your money in a tin can. $100,000 in 2024. Needless to say, a low-carbohydrate product that lowers blood sugar also reduces the need for the drugs and ancillary products that make diabetes such a boom for the healthcare industry. In 2021, patients from the affordable drugs published a landmark report exploring connections between 15 patient advocacy groups in the pharmaceutical industry. The ADA scored lowest because it accepts funding from pharmaceutical companies, and also because its board of members, the ADA, with financial ties to Big Pharma, shares lobbyists and or lobby firm with pharma, the report said. It goes on and on and on and on. So there's a connection. The objective is not you and I getting healthy. When you look at 140 million Americans that are diabetic or pre-diabetic, they're making billions and billions of dollars off of us. 400 billion. And they're not sharing the truth with us. They're hiding it from us. And the agenda is them making money off of you and me. So I come here every Saturday and I give you all this information free. I don't charge for it. You can take it and run with it. That's entirely up to you. But the best way to reverse the disease is lifestyle. It's called exercise and diet. And, we're really hammering hard and heavy on this because, when you look at the condition of Americans today, we're in really bad shape. And it's not getting better. It's getting worse. And when you look at it, you look like it's a conspiracy to get people unhealthy because someone makes money off of us. So they're feeding us the wrong food, and the information that they're bringing down to us is the wrong information when it comes to our well-being. One of the things is statin drugs. I hit hard and heavy on statin drugs. They want people to eat carbohydrates. A lot of them. Because it's the insulin from the blood sugar going up that tells your liver to make cholesterol. Yes. Insulin tells the liver, make cholesterol. It turns that process on. So it doesn't make any sense to say, well, if you got high cholesterol, let's cut your carbs down. And over time, the cholesterol is going to come down because you have less insulin circulating, telling the liver to do this. And that's what this Ozempic and all these other GLP-1 drugs basically are working with. They're working with balancing out two hormones that are produced by the pancreas, insulin and glucagon, to keep them level, basically make you use insulin better so you don't need glucagon to bring up your blood sugar. In other words, less insulin, more fat burning, more control of appetite. They also don't tell you that statin drugs, the concept of the statin drug is to interfere with the metabolic pathway in the liver that insulin tells to make cholesterol. It gets in the way of it. So insulin can't tell the liver to make it. That's why one of the side effects of a statin drug is an increased risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Did you know that, diabetics out there? Increased risk of developing diabetes. And if you have it, it's a progression of it, which in other words means you need to go on more blood sugar drugs to manage your blood sugar because your blood sugar continues to go up, and the statin drugs are contributing to that. And a disclaimer by the medical field, you have to weigh the benefits with the risk. Risk? Benefits? The risk to become a diabetic or make it worse? So you need more drugs? The number one cause of death in diabetics is what? Heart disease? Yes. And here's another one for you. We know there's a connection between Alzheimer's and blood sugar. And that your experts, your researchers are calling Alzheimer's type 3 diabetes. And we also know that statin drugs, they interfere with cognition, your ability to focus, to think clearly. And that statin drugs cross the blood-brain barrier. Did you realize the brain produces its own cholesterol? And I believe about 30% of the cholesterol in the body is in the brain. And that myelin sheeting, the fatty sheeting that covers the brain, is made from cholesterol. And that statin drugs go across that blood-brain barrier into the brain. Yeah. It's a protection. It gets in there. Here we go. Oh, wow. We have an explosion in a number of people being diagnosed with dementia and Alzheimer's. Oh, wow. Where did this come from? Oh, let's come up with a new drug to treat it. That's what they do. Oh, we can make a lot of money. Well, we're trying to benefit the American people with this new medication. How about changing their habits, their diet? BYU a couple years ago came out with their research on Alzheimer's and type 3 diabetes. And their recommendation were ketones. Ketones are released from the body when you eat less carbohydrates. When you bring the carbs down, low-carb eating, ketones are released. The brain uses that for energy, for fuel. Yes. Bet you weren't told that. So now you got the statins all I tell you what. And what does exercise do? Exercise does what? Helps your body burn sugar. You store most of the sugar in the body where? In the muscles. In the muscles. When you move around and do activity, I'm not talking about sitting there changing the channel on your TV set with your remote control. I'm talking about exercise, real exercise. The kind we do. Each pound of muscle on your body holds only 2.04 grams of sugar, carbohydrates, glycogen. That's it. It's 28 grams in 1 ounce. Figure it out. 1 pound. Take a 1 pound steak, 2.04. That's very little. Anything extra more than what it can store, you store it as fat. So when you move around, you're burning that stuff up. And, of course, what the body does when the sugar that's in the blood, it goes in there first because you're exercising, replenishes it. Anything extra makes it in the fat, stores it in fat cells as triglycerides. And this is all lifestyle. You don't need to be out there exercising every day of the week, 1 hour, 1.5 hours. Well, I don't have time. You don't have to do that. You're looking at 30 minutes, 2 or 3 days a week. If you can do activity daily, that's great. But it's not necessary to have to do that. But it's great if you can. It's good for you.